Hey guys, this is Jackson from Ghost of Gamers on day 3, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing Sjokz, who's the ESL host. So, how are you doing today? You basically are doing this straight after Super Week from LCS, so it's probably pretty hectic. How are you feeling?
I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty tiring. The amount of work we put into Super Week, because it was 4 shows. It was 3 shows. It was tons of matches, and then coming straight here. You don't really prepare all that much. You kind of do it on site, because you have the teams from the LCS. You kind of fall back on and do your research for the newer teams, like the Brazilian one and the Korean contenders, of course. So it's been hectic, but I don't mind because as long as we get to see games.
So when you started doing the journalism with SK Gaming and all this other stuff in your personal show, like what were your initial plans? Because not a lot of people go into esports, like kind of like planning from childhood to go into esports, because it wasn't really big enough at the time. So like, how did this happen? Did this kind of like come along? Was it something you did as a hobby and it just developed into a career? Or just how exactly did you plan this out and get into esports, basically?
Well, I finished college last year. I had my master's in history and in journalism. And when I started history, I thought this is what I want to do. But then along the way, I kind of got really into sports and into video games and esports. So I was kind of contemplating that route. I didn't have a job, so I started to write freelance for SK Gaming, get a little bit of experience, but at that time it wasn't really a plan. But then I got the opportunity to go to DreamHack and go to Korea to OGN, and I got the opportunity to do video interviews and just work at an event. And the minute I went to an event, the minute I went to DreamHack, I realized this is amazing because you're just surrounded by all these people who want to do, who want to watch the exact same games that you do and who love that. And then you come back home and it's like, oh, you went to a video game tournament? And I'm like, yeah. So it kind of grew from going to events and seeing the live experience really and how esports was growing. Knew that I wanted to make a job out of it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How do your friends at home really see that? I mean, like on esports, you're kind of like the superstar host now, and when you go back, it's like everybody just thinks you're just doing a job away, and sometimes it's very difficult to explain. So, like, is this something you try to explain to them when you go out for food or something, or like how exactly do you articulate to them that you're like, well, yeah, I actually just talk about video games for a living?
Sometimes it's kind of hard to explain. I have a lot of friends who play League or play other games, so that's nice because they really understand. And they're like sometimes a little jealous because they're like, oh man, you get to travel everywhere, and that's the main thing. Even someone who doesn't understand the business, understands that if you get to travel everywhere for something you really love, that's really a blessing to be able to do that, and they respect that. In the beginning they did. In the beginning they thought, because I used to be a little addicted to Unreal Tournament, so they were like, oh no, she's going down that road again, and she's not going to do anything with it. And so I was really happy to prove to everyone, also my parents, that I'm really able to make a living out of this and loving it. Yeah.
So you've been to many places. What would you say is your favorite visit so far?
Oh man, that's really hard. I'd have to say or Las Vegas, IPL, because it was just an amazing event all around. Everything came together, like the location, the teams, the organization. It was amazing. And Korea, like South Korea for OGN. I will never forget that. It was just, everyone there was so up in esports, and it was around the time when CLG was there and Dignitas was there, and just, that was really good. Because you go to America, it's not really that much of a culture shock, but when you go to Korea, it's really nice to meet all these new people and take case of that culture.
So from an onlooker that's just kind of watching a stream, they might not know all the work that really goes into journalism and being a show host. They just kind of see you go on stage, do your thing, and go off. Yeah. Can you kind of let these people in a little bit on what you do when you're not on the camera, like what kind of stuff you have to go through to prepare for events, pre-events, and maybe while you're doing the event?
Yeah, sometimes people message me and they're like, oh, you don't have to do anything, you're just up on stage. And they say, well, actually not, because what we do for LCS in the first place is we make up an entire script and a rundown. You go and find out all the possible storylines there are. You got to keep up with the news, there's so much news to read on League of Legends. Reddit, important source, of course, and every news site. Because you need to come up with stuff to ask these people and keep the show interesting. Because sometimes the games are amazing, then it's really nice to do it. But if the games are a little meh, you just have to find out and use everything that you've researched to build up the show. Same here. I sit down and watch the matches. I usually, write down the picks and bans if anything was weird or, out of the meta. I can ask a question about that. Then I ask them about who they're going to be up against, everything they tried, their past results. So you really have to be on top of things to avoid going up there and being, so what was that like,
So speaking of the event, today's been really crazy. I mean, it's pretty much just been upset after upset after upset. So well, I was going to ask, what is your favorite to win the tournament? Because we haven't been seeing the typical results that we thought we would. I mean, all the underdogs are basically winning right now. So, I mean, maybe it's just because LCS has been too crazy for these guys, and the other people had more time to prepare and research. But who do you think's the favorite going into this?
I'd have to say Gambit. I mean, after seeing not only their dominance in LCS, but then also seeing how EG and Fnatic are not doing very well, and they have the power to overcome that even with little preparation or, you know, just as not as much training because they came out of Super Week. I think that Gambit has really high chances of going far here. I'm also very happy to see MYM win against CG and do good. I've always liked them. You know, they didn't get into LCS. They might have deserved a spot there, so I hope that they can kind of defend something here.
Of course, and now that you're a show host and stuff, do you ever like miss kind of going around and like just interviewing all the players or doing what they used to do? Or are you actually quite comfortable where you are right now?
I'm really comfortable where I am. I have to say that this job, the kind of research that goes into it is the same, but the job on site is a little less stressful because when you do interviews, you know, you got to run around, you got to find someone, you got to bother them a lot of times when they lost or when they won. Then I would usually go back to the press area to edit it and put it up. So it was really, you didn't have time to watch the games, and now it's cool that it's a perk that I actually have to watch the games. I love it. Yep.
That is awesome. So as someone that's kind of like a good example of a great show host and stuff, is there anything you have to say to aspiring journalists that might want to get where you are or work in esports as it's such a big growing industry? Do you have any tips for these people?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, not just journalists, but everyone who wants to get in. There are a lot of ins here, but you're going to have to work hard because it's a growing industry. And the greatest tip I can give is actually find the thing that you're best at. Like if you make great videos, or if you make great guides, or if you're just a great writer, or maybe even you could be a pro player. Just whatever you're the best at, you have to put the time and effort in. And it's not going to be easy, but everyone who does their part is going to get picked up.
It's very difficult in an oversaturated market, but if you work hard, you can get there. So any last words you had to say to maybe just like family, friends, or any shout outs you want to give?
No, just a shout out to everyone. Thanks for supporting me. I'm on Twitter. Can I say that? Yeah, you can follow me at sjokz. I usually post a lot of updates and pictures there of the tournaments and LCS. So that's about it. Thanks for the support.
Make sure you follow her at sjokz. That was Ghost of Gamers, and we'll be here covering the rest of the day. Stay tuned.